Hi friends, it's Six Pack Sarah. I'm going to do a little chop and chat today. So I've got a few chunks of wax of home fragrance that need to be chopped up to fit into warmers. It's not a lot, but I thought while we chopped up the wax together, I'd tell you a few things about me and my hobbies or likes. Also, before we get into that, I've moved my plant over here. It's a spider plant. When I first got married, I kept a spider plant alive wonderfully. I had no green thumb at all, but I could keep my spider plant alive. We started moving and I decided not to keep the spider plant because I did not want to kill it in the moves. Once we settled here in the current house, I got a new one, and this is like my fourth or fifth one. I cannot keep them alive anymore. This one's turning brown. I don't know what's going on. So if you have a green thumb, let me know. Now, I can keep outside plants alive now. I can make tomato plants and zucchini and strawberries, but for the life of me, I can no longer keep a very simple spider plant alive. So please, if you have tips, let me know. I've tried the things like the internet things, but I can't really tell what's going on. So I'm either overwatering or underwatering, or it's too cold or too hot or too humid or too, I don't know, it's something. Okay, enough about plants. Let's chop some wax and I will tell you about myself a little bit more. I think first we're going to chop my Scentsy bricks that need chopping. I have one row left in this brick. I just posted a video earlier last week that talked about which bricks I'm going to be working on in the near future during the fall, basically. So if you want to see all the bricks I'm using, check out that one. But I'm going to chop up the ones that need some chopping so I'm ready to use them for the fall. I also posted a video a few months ago telling you about my wax chopping tools, so I will link both of those videos in the description box below. We can see how I do it. Pop out one row at a time, preferably, and then I just start chopping. So a little about me. Obviously, I am a fan of home fragrance. Since I'm on here chopping wax, I have been using Scentsy since about 2010. I honestly can't remember exactly the timeline, except for that it was right before we purchased our first house, because I wanted to make sure our house smelled like us, or our own things, rather than the people who had lived there for the last 60 years or something. So that's when I got into Scentsy and home fragrance. I had had some candles before, but I didn't really do much with them. Yes, and then now I dabble in vendor. I don't have a ton of vendors that I purchase from, but I do enjoy some of their wax now, partly because of some people being local to me or semi-local, and or having similar interests to me or such things. So that's what made me get into that. So I just put the brick pieces right back in the clamshell, if it works out fine. I'm gonna go grab a paper towel to clean up my messes, and then I will tell you some more of my hobbies. We're going to do the same thing with my vanilla bean buttercream brick. I would say that my biggest, if you can call it a hobby, or my biggest interest is children. So I don't know if you can call it a hobby because my own children are not a hobby, but I love them very much. But I have loved children and watching children for most of my life. My youngest brother is 8 years younger than me, and I think that's when it started. I fell in love with having a baby around, and my mom let me watch him more and more as he got bigger. and I was hooked. I just wanted to have babies all the time. So I babysat for like most of my career was babysitting. Obviously, when I was a kid, you can't really call it a career, but I babysat more than anything else I've ever done. So that is my main passion in life. And so I have 6 of my own children, and like I said, I love them dearly. They do keep me very busy, but I make a little time for myself here or there when they get to be spoiled with the TV or whatever, or if they're at school. Alright, sticking these back in here. So that is why my channel name is Six Pack Sarah, because I have 6 children, and Scentsy, sometimes they don't fit in super well, so I just stick them in a different slot. Scentsy's big thing was selling 6-pack bars of wax. Now, they have since changed things. If you go on the website and get 6 bars, you get 10% off instead of what they used to do, which was buy 5, get 1 free. So now it's just 10% off. However, if you go through a consultant, whether it's me or your own consultant, you can have them put in the order and get you that buy 5 bars, get 1 free. They just have to do it for you. So if you would prefer to get 1 free, contact your consultant, right? Okay. Vanilla bean buttercream is done. My next, longest hobby I've ever had is reading. Okay, we're gonna do caramel sugar cookie next. This one, I do have 1 cube done, but I'm gonna do, sorry, I can't get the right angle. I'm gonna do the next row because I want to make sure I'm using this brick, so I want to have plenty. So I literally remember being a kid and not loving reading in first grade, but by sometime in 2nd grade, I fell in love with reading, and I have been loving reading ever since. So I read when I can. I read several books a month, and I track my reading, and I just read like crazy. I also, you might ask, how do you have time for reading with 6 kids? But mostly I actually read on my Kindle because then I can read in the dark while I'm cuddling kids or falling asleep. I let myself fall asleep reading pretty much every night. Or I listen to audiobooks while I'm doing chores. Now I do alternate between YouTube videos, which are mostly home fragrance videos, and audiobooks, but that is how I read most of my books. So, and I was not able to do audiobooks as much when all the kids were younger. I felt like I just needed to have my ears on everything, and that didn't work for me. However, now that my kids are getting older, most of them, I still have a 3-year-old. It's been easier to listen to other things, partly because there are more eyes and ears on things when you've got older kids. They're not in charge of everything, but they're around to kind of help or entertain or whatever. So there's that, plus the fact that many of them are in school most of the day. All right, the last brick is caramel chestnut. This one is actually chopped, but I wanted to make sure they were all apart and not stuck together. All right. I would say my other main hobby at the moment is cross stitching, which the downside of cross stitching is it keeps me up way past my bedtime because I get going and I can't seem to stop. That's when I do a lot of my audiobooks and YouTube watching as well. But it's so relaxing that I just love it. And I love seeing things come together. This one is so juicy. This is not going well. All right, so that's one of the reasons I'm trying to use that some more. So yes, I do quite a bit of cross stitching these days. I also love to sew. That one doesn't get done as much as cross stitching because cross stitching I can have a little project out and I can work on it when kids are around. But sewing, I have to come in this room and keep the kids from poking into all my stuff and pull out more pieces, and it's just a lot more involved. So I love it, but I don't do it as much because, you know, life happens. Okay. That is all the Scentsy bricks. Now we're going to work on a couple vendor things. It's not a lot. I have not been purchasing many items in vendor wax that need chopping, and I really don't know how much I will purchase in the future. I'm getting wax everywhere. I'm going to smell so good. Do you ever get compliments on how you smell and you know it's your home fragrance? That's happened to me last week at school pickup. Someone said, I smell pumpkin spice. Does someone have like pumpkin spice something on? I'm like, oh, it's probably my Scentsy bar I just put on before I left the house. Yeah. I couldn't decide if I was embarrassed or proud of that moment. All right. My last main crafty hobby that I do is knitting. That one has not gone by the wayside, but that one I am doing the least frequently right now, which is silly, but I have done that the most in my life. I've knit more than anything else because I was very into it for a long time. It's just recently I've been into the other things more, so I haven't been. So caramel and apple donuts from Lavender and Speckles. I had chopped this before, but I saw a big chunk in there that I just wanted to chop up. This is her softer olive oil formula, which she doesn't really use anymore, but I found it hard to chop, but just now just doing one piece was fine. I also like to chop many of her shapes in half because I often will put half of a shape in two different warmers to kind of spread out the scent. And that seems to usually work for me. However, recently I did one whole shape in this contained room of cinnamon apples, and it lasted like 3 full days. So sometimes it is worth putting in more wax, but I do enjoy putting in, like I said, half of a shape in 2 warmers. So yeah, that was a lot harder wax compared to that other little piece I did. So then if I want to do a whole shape, I can, but I often will just do the 2 things. The other couple hobbies I wanted to talk about, one I mentioned earlier is gardening. I'm not huge into gardening because mostly our yard is for the kids to play. But I do have each summer at least a small garden. It changes from year to year on how many things I'm doing, but I usually try to plant at least zucchini and cucumbers. Normally tomatoes too, but I did not plant any tomatoes this year. So that was my pumpkin apple type from Lavender and Speckles. I got this as a customs because I love the pumpkin apple candle. However, I don't think this smells like the candle personally. It's much more perfumey. So that probably won't be a repurchase for me, but that's okay. Back to gardening. I do have a decent sized strawberry patch that I like to get strawberries from, but I don't usually have enough strawberries to do anything with. Also, when you have 6 kids, they eat a lot of strawberries all at once, and I love strawberries, so it's just a hopeless case. Also known as amazing because then we can eat strawberries. Our raspberry patch has been exploding, so we've been getting a lot of raspberries. This one is my other customs from Lavender and Speckles Cider Mill Bake Shop. This one has cider lane and apple cider donuts and donut shop. So I still haven't gotten around to melting this one, but I'm looking forward to it. The other things I like to grow are, rhubarb. My husband jokes that our whole yard is being taken over by rhubarb and strawberries. But my son and I like strawberry rhubarb pie, so I'm okay with that sacrifice. And my final hobby is also one of my favorites. Also not really called a hobby, but my final interest is Jesus. I've been a Christian my whole life. I was baptized when I was 3 weeks old. And it's always been a very big part of my life. My husband is a pastor, and we do live in what you call a parsonage. The church owns the house, and they allow us to live in it, which is it's helpful, handy, and nice. We can walk about, I don't know how many yards, but just down a sidewalk, very short way to get to church, and I love that. Don't have to buckle kids up in the morning on the way to church. Yes. So Lavender and Speckles, one of the reasons they have my heart is because she puts Bible verses on every single piece of wax you get, whether it's a clamshell or a bag of something, and it's very important to her. So I love supporting her because of that, and because she does Gilmore Girls collections sometimes. So that's also really nice for me. Okay, my last one to chop is Teddy B's cider cookies. I got this 2 years ago. Yep, October of 2023. And this one has apples, cake donut, cinnamon, caramel, and sugar cookies. It doesn't smell what I wanted it to smell like. I'll just say that. It smells better than it did because my husband thought it smelled like strawberry yogurt the first time I put it on. But I get less of that now than I did then. I also don't really love chopping souffles. Like, it's a circle, and how do I make it even? And this isn't my favorite, but I'm gonna use it this year. We're gonna do it. I have since sworn off Teddy B's. I tried a few other scents that I ended up having to de-stash, and I know Teddy B's is very popular. It's just not quite for me. But anyway, that's all right. To each their own, right? So for larger pieces like this, if it's wider than the little chopper, I like to pull out my big one. This is really handy for loaves or anything slightly wider. All right. So those are my hobbies and interests. Of course, I have actually plenty more hobbies, but those are my main things that really make me passionate. Are there any hobbies you have that are similar to mine, or do we have completely different interests apart from loving to melt wax? I would love to know in the comments. Get to know you guys a little bit more, and I really appreciate every one of you who has been watching my channel in the last, it's not quite been a year, but it's getting close to a year. So I very much appreciate everyone. All right, we are almost done chopping. I'm trying to see if I can keep it in a circle when it's time to put it back in. I also have no idea how much Teddy B's wax I like in a warmer. All right, so yes, if you haven't subscribed, I would love to have you. But if you're just visiting, thanks for stopping by, and I will talk to you soon. Soon I will have a Scentsy haul because I ordered some things for a customer of mine and me together. So I'm excited to share that. Soon you'll be able to see my empties basket for the month of September because it is just about here, and I'll show you what I've been working on this month, and then we'll see what other things come up in my wax world. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye!